as I got older, I had a pretty tough life. So, I did get in a lot of fights, whatever, a fight's a fight. I've kicked the shit out of people and I've gotten my ass kicked. It's it's not fun. It's something that I don't look for or anything like that. I feel bad afterwards. And as I'm older, I've noticed a lot of times that the look on people's faces around you, like, I guess I say normal people, where when they see this happening, they're like they're in shock, and they're scared, and they're trying to get away, and it's like, I don't know, it's just not something I like. I try to stay away from it and everything like that.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media. I'm back. I hope that you had a glorious August. I most certainly did. I took some time to relax and to hang out with my family. The good thing that happened is that there are a bunch of amazing things that are coming up in the world of Vox and Hops, and I can't wait to tell you all about them, and I will be doing that in the next few weeks. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal is Montreal's premier metal promoter. They put on a bunch of sick metal shows here in Montreal throughout the year, but more than that, they also put on one of North America's best metal festivals, and that's the absolute truth, because I have played just about every festival out there, and trust me when I say this, Heavy Montreal is up there with the best of them. I am beyond stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I would just like to ask you all to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. If you have already done that and you're looking for something else to do to help the podcast, what you can do is tell a friend about the podcast. If you have a friend in your life that loves craft beer, that is a metalhead, well, then make sure to tell them to check out Vox and Hops, because I have 290 episodes available for them to go back and listen to with some of the world's best and biggest metal musicians. If you were to encourage one of your friends to become a future Vox and Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, on today's episode, I am with PCP Crazy Fucking Manny of the IWS. That's right, the International Wrestling Syndicate. They have a show coming up this Saturday, presented by Heavy Montreal, September 4th at MTELUS in downtown Montreal, and that show is called Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops, episode number 290.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I am with PCP Crazy Fucking Manny of the International Wrestling Syndicate, IWS, better known as. Manny, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm bored. I got a regular job.
No fucking way.
Yeah, it's been a long 18 months. It's been more than 18 months now, actually, like 20 months almost. Just want to put on a show, man. I'm excited to put on a show again.
Yes, and that show is happening this Friday,
Saturday.
September 4th. I'll say it again. And that show is happening this Saturday, September 4th at MTELUS, Blood, Sweat, and Beers,
Yes.
presented by Heavy Montreal. Of course, I had to have a conversation with you. Let's dance right into it, the thick of it. Let's talk about how you coped with 2020, these 20 months when you couldn't do what you're supposed to be doing with your life.
Well, man, it's crazy. We had our flagship show of the year is unfucking sanctioned. And we like to rotate it between MTELUS, Soda, and Unity, our smaller venue, because we always want it to be a big thing. So we like to rotate back and forth from venue to venue to make it exciting. We won't use one venue for a while just to have that show there. So it was scheduled at Soda. It was, 20 tickets away from being sold out.
Wow.
And the week before the show, we were told we could only get 250. We would only be allowed 250 people. So right there, we have 750 tickets sold. We got to tell 500 people they can't come. And then I got an email from Heavy Montreal. At the time, my friend was a rep for Heavy Montreal. Now we all know everybody at Evenco's changed. But I got an email, and he's like, "Look, man," he's like, "get ahead of it now, because we're pretty sure by next week there won't be any shows." So we canceled our show on Thursday, 1 week before the event, so 9 days before the event. And lo and behold, Friday, all events were barred the next day. by Saturday, actually. So I had talent working a small show with 150 people on the Saturday. We pulled all our talent from that show. The promoter eventually canceled because we didn't want to, we wanted to help out and everything. COVID was a new thing. Nobody really knew what was going on. So yeah, and we rescheduled for 3 months later, and we went into this whole thing thinking, well, it's going to be, maximum 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are almost 2 years later, and getting ready to finally get back to it. Hopefully the podcast gods, as we record this, hopefully the podcast gods have been in our favor. And at the time of this recording and airing, everything is good to go, and we'll be in a ring tomorrow night. So
I sincerely hope so.
Yeah.
I have been following you for a long time. You guys have been doing some crazy shit for many years. But let's talk about what Vox&Hops is all about. Vox&Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends normally, and we talk about their life, music, and craft beer. Now, you're my very first wrestler or person involved in the wrestling industry on the podcast, so I'm stoked to be with you. What are you going to be drinking on your side tonight that we'll be sharing virtually?
It's funny. I've been running around like crazy, getting stuff ready for the show and everything. And ironically, it's like, it's a pretty funny thing, because I realized as we booked this that I completely, putting on a show used to be clockwork for me. I knew every single thing to do. It would be in my brain automatically. It's been so long. There's so much to do. And, hopefully the media tours are going on as we talk now, that I've been running around all day, and I completely forgot I was doing this podcast until I got a reminder on my phone. So I'm drinking Bubly sparkling water that I got from Subway's when I got my supper. Lime flavor. It's actually pretty good. It tastes like 7-Up. There's no sweeteners. I'm satisfied. I have this thing with beer, craft beer and regular beer. See, I'm not a fan of the taste of beer. So basically when I drink beer, it's with the sole intention of getting smashed. And if anybody's ever been to an IWS party or an IWS after party, which tomorrow night there'll be an after party at Unity, we'll have the entire upstairs to ourselves. We'll be serving lager beer. We'll be serving plenty of craft beer. I like to drink beer to get drunk. Usually I start with regular beer, and when I run out, I drink the craft beer because it's a little more bearable for me. So tonight it's just Bubly. I figured it'd be safe not to get shit-faced on a podcast and say a bunch of things I'll regret. And yeah, we're going with the Bubly sparkling water, soda water.
Amazing. And that is my favorite flavor of Bubly by far. I feel like it's the one that tastes the most natural. On my side, I'm going to be drinking a Vox&Hops Brewtal North America collab. This is from Thrashed, who's a YouTuber. He has a brand going on. Chris Soutsos, I love this kid. He's from Toronto. And Henderson Brewing Company. Shout out to Jamie Morris for putting this together for me. This is Suds for Buds. It's a 3.5% ABV. A Grodziskie. I'm fucking that up. It's a smoked Polish ale. It's delicious. Let's crack this open. And I want to hear about your very first beer, Manny.
My very first beer. Holy cow. Man, I think every kid's had a beer with their dad when they were young, or their dad's giving them a little bit of beer. I don't really think that counts. My very first time getting drunk, drinking more than one beer, was I was in Rosemere High School with my best friend Christopher Mergel, also known as Joe Pitt, the barbecue king. And you can look him up on Facebook. Joe Pitt makes the best fucking barrel barbecues there is. And there used to be a dep near Rosemere High School where, I don't know, if you were convincing enough, the owner would think you were 18. So we spent 2 weeks stockpiling beer in an empty locker with change with our lunch money, buying this beer called Molson Extra Old Stock.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 6.2% beer, and Molson Bredor, which is another 6.4% beer. And we saved them till the last day of school. And then we went to the old train bridge in Rosemere, and we cracked them open. Now, when you're drinking strong beer and you're a teenager and you've never even drank a full beer to yourself, the shit hits hard. So we went back to high school on the last day. We ended up passing out in the hallways.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it was bad. Thank God it was the last day and nobody cared. But yeah, that was the first time I drank beer. And then of course the next summer, good old Labatt Maximum Ice and Molson Triple X came out, and then that was all over. So
just punishment.
Yeah. Do you
punishment
remember when Foofs had Molson Triple X Mondays? They serve
No.
Molson Triple X for $1.
Holy shit.
I lasted like 2 months.
What
And
ABV was Triple X? Was it like 10%? Was it up
it was 10.2%
for $1?
for $1. Yeah.
Dude,
And I think Foof's security had that removed.
I would imagine so.
It was
Or
just-
the cleaning crew.
Yeah,
having to
yeah.
Pick up all the puke everywhere.
It was just insane. It was also like a funny story since we're talking about those strong beers. I also remember I was telling somebody this the other day when Ministry came to Montreal just before the pandemic, the year before the pandemic. We all met up at Foof's before the show at MTELUS, and it happened to be Blue Dries for $2 on Sunday. And of course, when you go to Foof's before a show at MTELUS, there's a shit ton of people. So when you go to the bar, you're like, it's only $2. I'll take like 12 of them, you know? So you don't have to get back up and wait in line. So we go back to the table where a bunch of people, and then we're like, oh, we got like, everybody did this. So we're like, oh, we got like 40 beers at our table. Oh, the show starts in 20 minutes. Oh, well, yeah. And Matt, I don't even know how we got into MTELUS. I don't even remember the show. So yeah, I try to stay away from the dries and the extra ices and I stick with Coors Light or White Claw. White Claw's some dangerous shit.
White Claws are my drain pour favorites. I am not a fan of the seltzers on my side.
Yeah.
I would love to hear about the soundtrack of your youth. When you were growing up in your parents' or guardians' house, what music was playing when you were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
Oh, my parents are Greek, so they played a lot of Greek music. So it was a lot of fun. My dad was a big Greek music fan, and he loved to sing and everything. He passed away a couple of months ago during the pandemic and everything. It was really sad, but thanks. And they listened to a lot of Greek music. I was a huge metalhead. I used to listen to Uncle Norm's Metal Hour, the New Republicans on CKUT, and Cups and Cakes on Mondays on CKUT. And I was a huge metalhead. I'm 45. I was going to metal shows from the time I was 15 at La Brick and and Backstreets and everything.
Yeah.
And I was a big Deicide fan, Napalm Death, Obituary, Cannibal Corpse, all the big death metal bands when they came out. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would like. There's always been lots of metal at IWS events.
Yes, definitely. We've always done several collabs with bands, as you know. Tantrum wrote our original entrance song. They played our show a few times. James's band at the time, I can't remember.
Endast or Inve.
Inve played. Yeah, Inve played our show. The Goo Lunatics played our show. Matt Perry, several of his bands. Several.
The WrestleManiacs is the one that comes to mind.
Yeah, the WrestleManiacs played. The band he had before that with Michelle, where they were all covered in makeup. And
it was a Green Jellies or Bukkake.
Bukkake played. Yeah, so we've always been implied with that. And my favorite thing about wrestling and everything in the heavy metal aspect is we got picked up by Heavy Montreal, and we started playing the Heavy Montreal Festival, and it's amazing for us because we had nothing when we first started, and it got so popular as the years went by. We got a bigger set, bigger. Our staging was more and more to the middle and everything. Last Heavy Montreal, we were smack dab in the middle by all the bars. It was
absolutely
awesome. And it's cool because we have our own tent, we have our own section. So once we're done wrestling at 7, it's like we basically have our own hotel or Airbnb in Heavy Montreal. So we could go watch bands, we could go back and party, we could eat, we have the time of our life. It's one of the things I look forward to the most. It's a shame it's not going to happen. It's not happening this summer. It didn't happen last summer, and hopefully next summer. At this point, I'll go wrestle at Oshiega or Il Sonic. I'll even wrestle at the Western Fest. I don't care. I just want to get out there and have shows again and do festivals.
Absolutely, and it is awesome that you guys are at Heavy, and I loved watching you guys there. Yeah. Let's talk about something that interests me. I had Josh Barnett on the podcast. I asked him the same question. I have never been in a fight in my life. I've never been truly punched in the face. Maybe once, maybe twice, but not on the regular basis that you have been, or Josh. I'm wondering, why do you fight? Why is this a part of your personality? Is it a part of your personality? What does fighting mean to you?
Well, it's weird. Pro wrestling, we all know it's scripted. So we know it's coming. You know, it's still contact. It's still hard. Actually, if you know, guys like Josh Barnett will tell you, Josh Barnett, who went from the UFC to pro wrestling, will tell you that pro wrestling is actually harder because you get hit. I mean, you get hit so many more times than you do in an MMA fight or something. Maybe not as hard, or you know, maybe there's no leg kicks and stuff, but you got to keep going. You know, you're in there for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So, and you got to remember things, you know, you got to remember what's next and everything like that. Also, when I grew up, I mean, you know, I had a pretty rough life when I grew up. And even as I got older, I had a pretty tough life. So, you know, I did get in a lot of fights. Whatever, you know, a fight's a fight. You know, I've kicked the shit out of people and I've gotten my ass kicked. You know, it's not fun. It's, you know, it's something that I don't look for or anything like that. I feel bad afterwards. And as I'm older, I've noticed a lot of times that you know, the look on people's faces around you, like I guess I say normal people, you know, where when they see this happening, they're like they're in shock and they're scared and they're trying to get away, and it's like, I don't know, it's just not something I like. I try to stay away from it and everything like that. The good thing is I also don't take any shit, and everyone in my company doesn't take any shit. So we're the kind of people in the wrestling industry where, you know, the internet, the keyboard warriors don't really like to go after us because they know eventually they'll run into us, and you know, we won't type on a keyboard, we'll just smack them in the face with a keyboard. So it's weird, but yeah, I generally avoid that. I find it stupid. And you know, when I look at how many times, like, people, you get in a fight with someone and someone could, and like Josh again, I'm sure he mentioned this, like in the street, you know, you may want to hit someone just to shut them up. But you know, there's a good chance that guy's going to fall down and hit his fucking head and he might fucking kill him, get killed, you know. And it's like, you know, something just went from a little, you know, from words to death like that. So it's not something I look for. Even in the pro wrestling ring, a lot of times there's been situations where, you know, where you're wrestling somewhere where you're not from and you don't know the person you're wrestling, and you know, something happens and people start hitting for real, and you got to fucking you got to show that person you're not going to take shit, you know. And it's an uncomfortable thing, you know, especially when, you know, you basically got to trust each other with each other's life, because
absolutely,
you know, if I pick you up and I give you a move, you're trusting that I land you without dropping you on your head. You know, I got to trust that guy too. So it's a messed up thing. I don't know. Pro wrestling is more entertainment. It's being able to perform in front of a crowd. It's very, very athletic. You know, we're the IWS. We do some insane stunts. You know, I don't think there's a balcony in any venue in Montreal that someone hasn't jumped off of or thrown me off of. It's a lot of fun, but mostly the main thing is we're just a big family. You know, we're a bunch of friends who are getting together. You know, everybody's a professional, but we're a bunch of friends who get together and we have a really good time. And as like a lot of people know, a whole bunch of these guys that started with us, guys that you watched over the years at our shows and they're in WWE now and AEW, and they're making millions, you know, and it's amazing that happened, you know. So it's a crazy journey, you know. Even Vice, I watch Vice TV now, and I remember when Vice was a local little paper in Montreal, and they did stories on us, you know. It's now like a worldwide thing, yeah. So it's pretty crazy. You know?
Very.
Look at us, you know. We both have deals with Evenco, you know. Who would have fucking thought, you know?
Absolutely. I do want to talk about building an empire, a wrestling empire.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were around at the beginning. I'm assuming that you were. Started at Dawson College.
That was.
So from Dawson College.
Yeah.
First off, the question is, how the hell did you convince them to let you do wrestling in Dawson College, which is a pretty prominent college in here in Montreal if people aren't from here?
It's a real crazy story. Sexy Eddie has to take credit for that, because they originally let him do during a barbecue, during like a hot dog roast or a corn roast. They let him have a mock wrestling match with one of his friends like outside on the grass. And it went really well. It was tame. It was just two guys. So a year later, me and one of my friends, we really wanted to get into the wrestling business. It was something we wanted big time. And somebody told us, yeah, there's a guy named Eddie who goes to Dawson and he's trying to organize a show at Dawson. He's like, you should meet him. So one night, it was my birthday, and we were at Wally's Pub, and the guy that said that to us said, "Hey, you should meet this guy. He's here." So I met Eddie, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll get you on the show." So I don't think Dawson expected
more than two people.
yeah, and it ended up being an entire show, and like chairs and tables and blood and thumbtacks, and because we were like, this is our first chance and our only chance. We have to do this. And that match not only got wrestling banned from Dawson, but it actually got us, like me, Eddie, and a couple of the other people involved, banned from ever wrestling in any promotion in Quebec.
Wow,
Because,
really?
Yeah, because they had a promotion had rented us a ring, and they brought their wrestlers, and they were furious that these guys went out there, with no training, and put on this insane show, So we were banned everywhere, and literally us getting banned, which is hilarious, these guys banning us to keep us out of the wrestling business, is what caused me and Eddie and another guy to start the IWS, the biggest pro wrestling company, right now, like the biggest indie wrestling company in Canada, one of the biggest in North America, and in terms of independent wrestling, we're one of the companies that is most known worldwide, all over the place, whether we get 50 fans or whether we get 2,000 fans, or whether we have 5,000 fans at Heavy Montreal or whatever we are. The one thing is, no matter what, we are the most well-known company in the world, and now we're sitting here with, multiple television deals and, working festivals for Evenco, being a Heavy Montreal Presents event. We own our own TV equipment, we have a full, like, we can shoot a multicam TV show tomorrow. We actually, we rent our TV equipment to people shooting movies and TV shows during the week, so it's like, we started a bunch of guys wrestling on gym mats at Wally's Pub, and now we have like $250,000 worth of television and audio equipment, a full-fledged wrestling school with one of the best, athlete performance-wise gyms built inside. It's like living the dream. And most of this stuff was actually purchased during COVID. We were renting a lot of it before, and it was just, I was working a lot, odd jobs here and there, saving as much money as I can. And, a lot of places, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, went bankrupt. And, we went in and we grabbed what we could. We took every opportunity. The only thing that sucked was I really expected this not to last longer than 6 months. So when you take every cent you have and you invest it in all this, and then this goes on for almost, 18 months, almost 2 years, it kind of puts a damper on things. But hey, go out there and get another job and wait it out. Excuse me, the bubbly making me burp.
Yeah, the beer does it too. Hustling, I love it. I want to go back in time a bit. And do you remember the first live wrestling show you went to go see?
Yeah, I do actually. My uncle took me to go see the WWE at the Forum. Wow. When I was like, I must have been 9-10 years old. It was something. I don't think I'd ever been more excited for something in my life. He took me and one of my cousins, and then he started taking us all the time regularly. And it was like, it's weird because my uncle is a very he's like a loner. He's married with kids and everything, but he's a loner. He's not very affectionate. But all of a sudden, he just started taking us to go see pro wrestling every time they came to Montreal, and it was the craziest thing ever. It was our evening out, and it was good. And man, ever since from the first day I saw it on television, the next day I went and I rented WrestleMania on VHS at a video store, and I was into it since then. And one night, ironically, in an apartment in Saint Eustache, I was with these guys, Shane Jenkins, Carl Robinson, Dave Cowie, and we were sitting there and we were watching a WWE pay-per-view. We were stoned out of our minds on mushrooms and weed. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And they were like, you'll never do that. I'm like, we made a bet. In a year, I'll be in a ring. And my stubborn self did it, And then, as I said, at Dawson, us getting banned from ever wrestling for all these tiny little promotions that wrestle in church basements or bingo halls or whatever, or gymnasiums. We got banned from wrestling at all of them, and it caused us to start our own company. And, it's been success ever since.
What would have been your first time in the ring? Do you remember your first show?
My first show, yeah, it was at Dawson. That was the first time.
Really? That was it?
That was it. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, I'd
And
never
from
been.
that event
Yeah,
to
actually,
everything that you
to be
built.
to be honest, I had never been in a ring in my life before that event, and I didn't get in the ring. I just brawled with my opponent outside and broke everything. So I probably didn't get into a real ring because at Wally's Pub we built a makeshift ring with Jim. I was probably putting on shows for a year and a half at Wally's Pub in the homemade ring we built there before ever setting foot in a wrestling ring. So I was drawing. We were drawing as back then the WWS. We were drawing 400 to 500 fans at Wally's Pub.
Wow.
We didn't even have a ring. So we have this promotion drawing these huge numbers, and none of us had ever set foot in a real wrestling ring. And then eventually, like the Green Phantom, who was with it, I mean, we were kids, we were super young, we didn't know what we were doing. So the Green Phantom was like, "Hey, I've got a bit of money. I know someone who could build us a ring. I'll pay for it. You pay me back." So we built a ring, and then we had our own ring.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
You guys went extreme right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going from a kid that watched, early huge wrestling events where it wasn't extreme.
Yeah.
When did you get into, death matches and all that stuff? You're sort of known for death matches.
Yeah.
Why is IWS so extreme?
Well, the first time I ever saw wrestling, I was about 8 years old. I was my parents would send me, I'm Greek, and my parents would send me to Greek school on Saturdays in Park Extension. And my uncle, the guy that would take me to see wrestling, he was the caretaker of the school where they would have those classes on Saturdays. So during lunch, he would take me and my cousins into the staff room, and we would be able to hang out there and eat lunch. And there was TV, and we would turn it on, and there was international wrestling. So the first wrestler I ever saw was Abdullah the Butcher, who was all he did was death matches. All he did was bleed. So that was my exposure at a young age. Then as we got older, there was this company called ECW. And before WWE bought them, and everything they did was extreme. And I saw this and I said, "This is insane." So I started ordering wrestling tapes from Japan and all these crazy death matches. So we were like, this is what's going to be the future. So if we're going to do this, we went and we saw these other companies and everything. And we were like, if we're going to do this, then we're going to do something different. We're going to be different. We're going to do something that's going to get people out there and everything like that. And another thing that really, really helped was, we're both from Two Mountains. So, that, Two Mountains is a skateboarding town. It's a extreme. Two Mountains produces death metal bands and skateboarders. That was our youth, death metal bands, skateboarders, and alcoholics and drug addicts. That was our youth, and teen moms. So we start having these shows, and everybody from Two Mountains starts coming out, and they're already into extreme lifestyles. So they see this stuff and they're like, "Holy shit!" And then they told their friends, and and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it just took off. And we, at a certain point, we had no choice. But what happened then was we were so popular. We know how to wrestle, but we're extreme wrestlers. We're not, there's guys out there at the time that were way better than us, but we were so big. That's when guys from other schools and other promotions started coming over because they wanted to work these matches that we were having, because that was what was on TV, and what was popular was the Attitude Era. And they wanted to work in front of the crazy crowds we had. So we kind of taught them how to do what we do. And they came in and they were really good wrestlers. And that's where the Kevin Steens, who's Kevin Owens now, the Sami Zayn, who may or may not be El Generico back in the IWS, and all these other people started coming in, and it meshed perfectly, and we exploded, man. It took off, and like, I can't say anything more. It just worked perfectly. I tell a lot of people, it's not about, when you come to the IWS, it's not about the show, it's about the atmosphere, and that's truly what it is. Like for us, our show is like, when you're at a metal show and War Pigs comes on, and the lights go down, people know they're about to see something crazy. People go crazy. It's like that throughout the whole thing. So that's how it is.
Being a musician that tours the world, that plays a bunch of gigs everywhere, we get ready for shows. Yeah. I know when I'm prepared for a show, I can tour the world. Every stage is a little bit different, but basically my show is going to run the same way. Yeah. When you're preparing for a death match, you can be as prepared as you want, but there must be that moment that some things do go wrong. So where does your mental state when you're stepping into a ring or organizing a show with death matches?
Well, there's two ways. Like, there's two kinds. There's the kinds where you use like tables and chairs, maybe thumbtacks, stuff like that. That stuff is it's easy. We've done it 1,000 times. So it sounds stupid, but you know, it sounds like the stupidest thing in the world, but I can look at a table and know if something's going to work or not work. Yes, there's times where the table doesn't break or where the table breaks too early. You got to deal with it at that point. You know, you got to come up with something. It's all instinct. Then there's the matches where you have the crazy stuff like the light tubes and the barbed wire and the stuff like that. And that's really like, you can't put two people who have never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do something really crazy, you have to have a bunch of people that have done it many, many times. You know, we have a lot of times you'll notice it's the same people in those matches, or at least it's one of the same people. So, you know, and there's a lot of trust, you know, there's a lot of trust that comes with it. You got to look at it too, like this, like, you know, I can go in the ring and have a death match and get cut up and get stitched up backstage by a doctor. But, you know, I make sure that my vitals, like, you know, where your arteries are and everything is covered up before it. So, you know, yeah, you're going to get stitched up almost 100%, but would you rather, you know, bleed and take a couple of big falls and go through like a bunch of tables and experience that pain? Would you rather take that risk or take the risk of going out there for 30 minutes and doing flips nonstop and taking these bizarre, crazy moves where you have a 99% chance of landing on your neck? So I kind of prefer the death matches. I kind of find them safer in a little bit, you know. It's a weird thing, you know. So some people can go in there and not be afraid of that and be completely comfortable and have their timing perfect and do it with their eyes closed. And, you know, other guys can go in the ring and flip and know exactly where they are and control themselves as they're flipping. Everyone's different. So, you know, that's why there's high flyers. That's why there's deathmatch wrestlers. That's why, you know, I tell everyone that we train at our school that the most important thing with their opponent is communication beforehand. You know, if you're not sure about something, don't agree to it. Tell the person, I've never done this before. How's it going to happen? What do I do? Let's try without obviously using the stuff you're going to break, but let's try it. You know, that's the best thing to do. If you go in there not knowing what you're doing, you're fucked, you know?
Absolutely.
And we've had several accidents where, you know, we're taping our arms shut during the match because they're pissing blood and everything like that, you know? So it's happened a lot. Now they're a lot more popular again because of Dark Side of the Ring and everything. And you know, people want to see them more. So, you know, hopefully things get, you know, back to normal, you know.
It's coming back, Manny. You mentioned it slightly, so I will bring it up. How do you feel when you watch people that were a part of the IWS move on and go to bigger places, such as hypothetically El Generico?
Yeah, I'm happy because, you know, okay, the Quebec, I mean, I'm sure it's the same with the music industry. The Quebec wrestling world is, there's no friends, you know. Every promotion is at each other's throats. There's no unity, you know. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of anger, you know. A lot of people talk a lot of crap online about people. They try to ruin your shows, you know. When I was younger, I used to be like that too. I used to talk shit about everyone in pro wrestling online. As I got older, I just don't reply anymore because we're much bigger than that. I don't think we're competing with other promotions in Quebec. I think we're competing with the Quebec entertainment scene, will be at a hockey game or a massive concert or something. So we don't reply. We just, you know, use our power to teach those other people a lesson. But you know, the one thing that I like to tell a lot of people, like, you know, a lot of times myself, I get mad when I see stuff people write about us or other people hit us up, and I go, you know, when guys go to WWE or go to AEW, the people in the back go, oh, those are the guys from the IWS, the bigwigs, the multi-billionaires, the people we idolized watching TV when we were kids. When I bring in names, for example, we're working on a major surprise for hopefully November, if everything goes good, a major surprise. And this is a major person. And, you know, we spoke with their agent, and he wanted a shitload of information before they even considered taking the booking. And the moment I said IWS, he said, "Oh shit!" And they called me right away. They're like, "Yeah, don't send us anything. We're good. We'll do it." You
Amazing.
know, and that's because like that it makes me proud. It makes me super happy to know that these people we grew up watching and these people that we idolize, our friends, our former talent work there, and they call me up and they say, "Yeah, I came in," and they said, "Oh, look, the IWS boys are here." And a few times on AEW and on WWE, the commentators have mentioned IWS, and these guys never mentioned any other companies. They've mentioned us, so it's an amazing feeling. And you know what? Like seeing your friends become millionaires and live their dream life, considering a lot of these guys, they didn't grow up rich, they didn't have a fancy life. Seeing them succeed, it's very, very fulfilling. And they give back. They come by our school all the time. They come hang out and stuff. So they give back a lot, and I mean, WWE did a DVD on Kevin Owens, and they made an entire chapter on the DVD about us. It was insane. WWE was calling me every week. We were sending them footage. They paid us a good amount of money for our old footage. I couldn't believe what I got paid for 45 seconds of footage that was split up. And it's awesome. It's really awesome. It's a cool thing. It's kind of like it's kind of like you'll remember this when James Hetfield got burned.
Yep.
And the guitarist, I believe it was the guitarist from Alcoholica, that went and replaced him on tour. Fuck, man, that was amazing. This completely amazing. Or when what's his name from Two Mountains, blonde hair guy, started playing bass for Cryptopsy. What's his name? I don't think he plays it anymore. Yeah,
definitely not in Cryptopsy, because
you're
talking about Megadeth.
No. There was a guy from Two Mountains. I can't remember his name anymore. Oh man. But he played in Cryptopsy like briefly, like back in 2008. He played bass.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Very interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Let's dance on to Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Now, this is your first show in 20 months.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the struggles, the trying to get it together. It's finally happening. Presented by La Gabière. La Gabière is fueling the event, giving there'll be a bunch of their beers available there for people to enjoy. One of Quebec's coolest microbreweries. Of course, I'm all about that. It's at MTELUS. Talk to me about setting up the show in a pandemic, the extra restrictions, everything that's just been driving you crazy recently.
Well, it's the 20 months has been a challenge because we had television deals we had to honor, and it's very hard. Like, putting on a TV show costs a lot of money. You still have to pay, even if you're not having events. We did a 2 months worth of TV with no crowd, but then that got shut down as well. But doing these kinds of events, when you have no income coming in from live shows, costs a lot. We were really lucky because our chief, Laga Beer is our beer sponsor, but our chief sponsor for the last 5 years has been Prohibition.
Yes,
and they are the most amazing people in the world. They have become good friends. They're more than a sponsor. We're really, really, really good friends and stuff. And they supported us throughout the pandemic. They helped us pay for our TV show. They run TV ads during our show. It helped a lot. We've booked so many shows. We've postponed so many shows during the 20 months. We had so many issues with public health because in Quebec, pro wrestling is considered an art. It's not considered a combat sport. So we go under theater and art. So we were trying to get permission to do television tapings with or without fans. And public health was telling us, you need to speak to the people that the gaming commission that oversees combat sports. But I'm like, we're not a combat sport. Well, for COVID, we consider you a combat sport. But the gaming commission is like, we want nothing to do with you. You don't fall under us. Tell them we can't say. So I did a runaround for like 2 years till I finally got a person who's one of the heads of public health in Montreal, who's in charge of everything. He took a look at our case. He's been an amazing man. I'm not going to mention his name because then everybody's going to email him. And he's been an amazing, amazing person. If he sees this, you know who you are. Doctor, thank you. You're a fucking awesome dude. You kept me out of depression. And he took the time to help us with everything. putting on events is, we know we're authorized. The venues and Evenco and MTELUS are handling all the public health guidelines. It's costing a fortune to put on events now because you have to pay for so many extra things that you didn't have to pay for before. It costs more costs more for safety than it does to put on the actual event.
Wow.
But it's happening, and it's been really depressing. I mean, we've been staying positive by equipping ourselves. I've been working a lot, just trying to stay out of the house. As I said, my father became very ill, not with COVID, but not being able to get the proper help he needed because the hospital was being shut down and everything. It took a toll on him. He passed away. It was really, really rough. So it's been a dark year when, we were right before the pandemic, we were on the verge of our biggest year ever. We had a major network interested in signing something with us. It would have been the biggest thing we've ever had. It would have been groundbreaking. And, everything goes on pause, and, you don't know what's going to happen, and of course, I'm sure you've seen it in your circle of friends and people you work with, the population kind of got divided,
Yeah.
and, you're too nervous. You're too nervous to give your own opinion anymore, because, the right or left is going to come after you. And, you just got to kind of sit there as a promoter and suck it up and do everything properly and put the frustration aside and not even be able to tell anybody about your frustration for the fear that they might use it against you.
Yep.
And finally things are pulling through. We all just needed to stay positive. And it sucks because, I truly believe that, if everyone kind of worked together, from the beginning, maybe things would have been different in the last 18 months. Maybe we would have been back a year ago, but, when people can't agree, shit goes on longer. So it's a real shame. I honestly want Montreal to heal. I think Montreal got it really, really bad during COVID in terms of, we're an entertainment city, and I think we got hard. And when I tell myself how hard it was for us, paying rent for an empty wrestling school and gym, that we can't let people into, and paying our bills and this and that, insurance and this and that, all kind of like, I think of like venues, who had to pay, massive rents, or ticket retailers, who live off commissions. And so, or bands, that made their extra rent money playing a gig here and there. All our friends that we've known for years that worked at Evenco or, Greenland or Spectra or venues or security or barmaids, bartenders, like people got it really, really bad, man. So, we just got to all work together and bring it back in this, in the city, man, I could go on and on. Photographers, we know all the same people, the when you look at Artists World and catering at Heavy Montreal or at Osheaga, all those people we spend our entire summers with, or we see it at the big concerts, all these people that we're friends with, like they disappeared and they're all out of work, and we know they're all struggling, So I'm happy. I'm really, really, really happy that we can finally come back. I'm really happy to see all these people hitting me up wanting to work the event. I'm really happy to see shows being booked again. I just want to go back to some sort of normalcy.
It's going to come back. It's going to come back, Manny. And this gig, Blood, Sweat, and Beers, is the start of it all for you guys. It's going to be amazing. So excited. If you could make a beer, I love collabs. I like making beers. I'm all about them, of course. If you could make a beer for IWS, what style of beer would it be, and what would you call it?
I thought about this for a while. I would make, number one, I would make a Pilsner, because I guess a Pilsner, it appeals to everyone. It's kind of a cross between a craft beer and a regular beer. I'm also a big fan. I've had a few there was like some cranberry and some mango beers that were really, really good. They almost taste like coolers and stuff. And I would probably call it like, I'd probably call it Blood, Sweat, and Beer. It's
a good name.
I think it would be a really, really good name. I think it would be fun. Maybe we'll get some red dye in it. So,
They can put some beet. There's like beet extract that they can put into it, and it gets really red.
Yeah. It'd be something. I think that would be fun.
Amazing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
One last question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often because you've been working so goddamn much to get Blood, Sweat, and Beers and IWS back on track, and you've been keeping it going the whole time, working your ass off. But every once in a while, it happens to everyone. Hypothetically, it might happen after Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Some of your fans, it will most definitely happen to. What is your hangover cure?
Wake up and have a beer, man.
Manny,
that's the ultimate hangover cure.
Manny, thank you so much for taking the time, having a chat with me, talking about your life, talking about wrestling, and talking about craft beer, talking about beer. I love what you've built. I'm a fan. I'm very stoked that you guys are back. I'm stoked that you've been hustling through this. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, man. It's good to see you again too. It's been so long.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers, brother. Take care, and I'll see you at the show.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Now, I have been following the IWS for a very, very long time. I actually went to go see them in the early 2000s, and I got to tell you that I was a little bit terrified. I enjoyed the metal aspect. I enjoyed the intensity of the crowd. I enjoyed my experiences at IWS events because they're just fucking crazy. I'd love to give a huge shout out to Manny for taking the time to have a chat with me when he is beyond insanely busy organizing his first show back since the pandemic hit. And that event is happening on September 4th at MTELUS. It's called Blood, Sweat, and Beers, and it is the return of IWS. If you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcasts mailing list. You could do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened throughout the past week in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, including all the details for any episodes which I have dropped throughout that week, any pertinent links to events which I have coming up, all of the amazing album reviews that the Vox and Hops Metal Album Review crew have put out that week, as well as the updated links to the Brewtal Awakenings playlist, which have been curated by my man Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself, and that playlist is available on both Spotify and Apple Music. There is just so much going on in the world of Vox and Hops that I would hate for you to miss a single thing, so please sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media. I hope you have a glorious rest of the week. I will be back next week with one episode on Tuesday and another on Thursday, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.